Amy.
Hey, Jack.
I'm gay.
Oh my god, that is so funny. I'm also gay. I was going to tell you.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
And you're listening to Dating Straight. Hey, Amy.
Hey, Jack. Hey,
Hey, Aliza.
Hi, guys.
Thank you so much for coming on Dating Straight.
Thank you for having me. I mean, I feel like we have to tell people what we've gone through to do this episode. We started trying before the pandemic.
Yeah.
Then during the pandemic.
And now it's Mercury retrograde.
Yeah.
So we really have been trying.
Okay, so for those of you who don't know Aliza, she is the only astrologist. You have books, a podcast, you write and do videos for Cosmo. You've been on my channel a couple times. I think that you are amazing.
I think you are amazing.
Oh, thank you.
So
and the gays love astrology, so this will be perfect.
Well, it's also okay. Well, everything happens for a reason, and it also is June. So it is finally Pride Month, even though it is Mercury retrograde.
True.
So I do feel like there is maybe, I don't know, it had to be on this day, in this time, in this place.
I feel like I need you now more than ever. Like,
well, I am finally here.
Jack said that both other times you were meant to be on as well, by the way. Well, he's like, I need her.
Well, now more than ever is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
More than ever.
It's compounding.
You're right.
So just before we begin, make sure to rate on the podcast app 5 stars, leave a review, and let us know what sign you are.
Ooh.
And subscribe on YouTube and also on any podcast app you listen to. We need your support now more than ever because, we have like...
Enough said.
Oh my God, tea.
Oh, check out our Patreon too.
Yeah, please do. We're uploading like an extra episode every month, as well as a newsletter and a live stream, which live stream is the freaking best.
Mm-hmm.
By the way. Okay, so before we jump into the real episode, we want to address that, COVID is still happening. Black Lives Matter movement is bigger than ever, which is amazing. So before we jumped in, I just want to say one thing we've each learned, as well as we're going to highlight an organization. So I attended another White People for Black Lives Zoom, and I learned more about defunding the police and closing jails and what that's going to look like. I also learned that when the LAPD gets sued for police misconduct, which happens regularly, the settlements aren't paid out of the LAPD budget, but they're paid out of the city's general fund, which eats even more into the money for other services, which sucks.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I'm from Australia, so I didn't know that there were police in schools, and they get paid more than teachers, by the way, the police in the schools.
What are police as security guards in schools?
I guess. I honestly don't know. Jack, were there police in your school?
No, there weren't. I went to a private school though, so
okay.
I went to public school in New York City, so we had I guess they did wear uniforms, but so I guess they could have been police, but I guess maybe they were police. I guess they were wearing police uniforms and they were in the school, but they were they locked the doors when you came at 9:15 instead of 9:10. That was in they had they were sort of characters in their own way. They weren't, but I guess they were just police the whole time. I didn't know.
Yeah, and do you need a gun for that job? It's to lock the school door at 9:15. So the Black Lives Matter movement is trying to get policing out of schools.
Yes,
that kind of doesn't really make sense.
That seems like a reasonable thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I guess in some good news, because sometimes we just need to celebrate some cool wins. There are 2 people black gay men running for Congress, Richie Torres and Mondaire Jones, in New York, and they both won their primaries for their Congress seats. So if they win the general elections, either of them, if one of them wins, that they would be the first black, openly gay representative in Congress, which would be super cool and great if both do. Like, how cool would that be?
Yeah.
So I just wanted to bring up that like super cool fact. Hopefully that happens.
That is very cool.
Nice.
And
Jack, do you want to tell us about the organization that we're highlighting today?
Yeah, well, we just wanted to highlight, I'm sure you've heard of it, Black Lives Matter. We have been highlighting some smaller organizations in our past episodes, but we thought, like, you know, Black Lives Matter is definitely leading the charge for this movement. And they're international as well as in America because, you know, this is far greater than just an issue in like certain states, obviously. So they're using this money for resources, hiring people, you know, spreading awareness. I mean, it's a good use of your money if you can. So make sure to donate if you can. And
that's Black Lives Matter, matters.com. No, Black Lives Matter. Oh my God.
Yes.
Sorry.
So now that we're kind of speaking about like the current state of affairs in America in several different categories, Aliza, we want to ask you about, like, in terms of astrology, like, what does this mean for people, or, you know, what will come of this? I don't know if you have all the answers, of course, but do you see anything happening right now?
Well, you know, it's like kind of crazy because even just maybe 6 weeks ago, I recorded a podcast, Atlanta's podcast. I'm Over It is what it's called. And this was before George Floyd was murdered, and it was before the current Black Lives Matter protests. And in that recording, it's like I'm talking obviously about what I predicted for 2020 and you know, before 2020 and how those were coming into fruition. And Atlanta was asking, you know, like, well, you know, what are some of the main themes? And I was like, well, sort of like, you know, who holds the power is the main theme. And like destructuring the systems is the main theme. Wow. And yes, like the pandemic is a means to get there, but it's not just about the pandemic. It's about something, it's bigger than the pandemic somehow, you know, even though a pandemic is like literally the biggest thing that could ever happen. It's like kind of the magnitude of it is really a mind fuck. But it's something that is very global, that is affecting everybody on every corner of the earth. But yet each, you know, country, each city, each place is going to have their own experience with it. So to speak about what the impacts of the pandemic will be on, you know, Australia or in you know, a smaller village in Russia are going to be different than talking about it in the United States. And then it's going to be different talking about it in like even a city like New York versus a city that's in like rural Missouri. So every place, we know that like the narrative of a pandemic, for instance, is going to be bringing a lot to light, but fundamentally the issues that it's going to be accessing are even deeper than just about you know, the structure of COVID-19 and like how many people have it and who has it. It's like really who has the power to be making decisions and to be helping or not helping people based on that. And then I think that, you know, the treatment of Black people in the United States is like another public health crisis, right? So there are, and that was ongoing. That is not just like COVID-19, which started in 19. That is something that has obviously hundreds of years. It's been a big problem for a really, really long time. So these things aren't just, I think the reason that these things are sort of coming up in 2020 at the same time is more proof of the fact that what's beneath them is something deeper. It's something about sort of, the way it's the bedrock, so to speak, of like our entire, the way that we see the world, the way that we allocate government, the way that we put people in power, and then what people do when they're in power, and then the stratification of power. So just some casual stuff, the huge.
Yeah, just some light stuff. I mean, it's a mind fuck. It truly is, like everything happening at once. I think like you're sort of hinting at, like, it's not random that these are happening at the same time. I think you're right that it probably was like boiling over. It's at the boiling point in like many different aspects of our culture right now.
Well, let's also be honest, like pandemics are avoidable, like viruses are not. Obviously, there's going to be viruses that jump from animals to humans, and that is a thing that happens. But pandemics are the result of not being able to contain something properly.
Poor leadership.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And who's doing that? It's the people in power. So, as much as we would like, obviously, we could think of this as this is a virus, and, we sort of have a laissez-faire approach to when it comes to sickness. It's like we almost feel as if like, oh, well, you couldn't avoid it. But in this case, no, like there was actually a lot of ways that it could have been avoided, and it didn't need to spread throughout the whole world and do what it's doing in the United States currently. And that the way that that's being, the way that we are reacting, or the way that the people in power are managing this crisis, is also very much embedded into the way that they are managing other public health crises, which is ignoring them. So I think that people are trying to, they're like, a lot is being folded into the frustrations of this moment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Woo.
You were talking about your 2020 predictions that you made in like 2019. What were they? Like, what did you think was going to happen for 2020?
I mean, I couldn't say, obviously, pandemic was not, if I was going around saying pandemic, I think that, obviously right now I would probably have a talk show. So maybe I should have just said it, but but it was, at the time, like, I'm not fucking Sylvia Brown, like I'm also not trying to like say doomsday shit and like get people like speak in apocalyptic language. And pre-2020, if you were to say there's a pandemic coming, people would be like, that bitch is like fear mongering and trying to get people all riled up. Like it was not a real thing like it is now.
Yeah.
And also, I wasn't thinking about a pandemic. Like, I'm not like, I wonder when the big pandemic's going to come. I mean, to me, that's the same as like, I wonder when the asteroid's going to hit. But it could have been an asteroid, like 2020 could have been an asteroid hitting. And so the way that I was trying to phrase it was sort of with that amount of weight and gravity of like, we really don't have a precedent for how big the events that are likely to happen in 2020 are. So we really can only just talk about them in scale. And the scale is massive. The scale is transformative on a financial, political, social, like infrastructural level. There's going to be extraordinary change that occurs. Wow. And the way that astrology works really is this type of astrology, this predictive astrology, ironically, is actually really about kind of being a historian, because you look to see what's happened in the past as information as to what the current planets are going to be doing in their new iteration in these modern circumstances and times. So in the past, some of the main astrology that's happening right now, we haven't seen since the 1500s. And at that time, it was actually the Reformation, which feels very foreign and very distant. And it's kind of hard to put ourselves into that state of mind. But at that time, the Catholic Church was not just the religious sort of catch-all, but it was also tied into politics and power and hierarchy and structure. So that fracture was like changed everything. I mean, it changed the entire world. It changed the way that people had money, and it changed like families, and it changed society. So that was the last time that we have like anything similar to what we have now. So that's like I don't know, it's a pretty big act to follow.
Yeah. Wow. Geez.
Yeah. But what also is very interesting is that Saturn and Pluto formed a conjunction this year. That happens every 38 years. The last time that happened was in the beginning of the 80s, which was during the AIDS epidemic. Then prior to that, it was actually it was like the polio outbreak. And then prior to that was the flu. So there is actually, now that we are sort of looking at it through pandemic eyes, we can see that Saturn and Pluto do seem to generate some sort of a widespread disease or illness that then needs to have a vaccine, or, AIDS does not have a vaccine, and that's a very important thing to remember, I think. Is that we have to sort of solve for it in one way or the other.
Whew.
Sorry. You invited me on. I don't know what to say.
No. I mean,
no, it's like impressive.
It's just crazy. Like, I mean, frankly, I'm not sure like at what amount I believe in astrology yet. I still haven't figured. I mean, I'm young, and I'm sure as we all do, we all change in like what we believe in, how much we believe in throughout the years of our life. But it's just so crazy to me that like even the possibility of something like the planets could predict things like this. So it's just like, to me, it's just like mind-boggling.
Well, I feel like to me, I feel so divorced from the idea of even believing in it or not believing in it, because to me, it's really just cycles, and it's just tracking time and cycles, and the planets sort of come with their own archetypes and their own symbolism, but we're not just creating narratives out of thin air or solar system air. Like, the stories that we're telling around these planets are stories based on things that have really happened, and then we're using that to like find patterns through history. And I guess, like when we look at, I'm doing more like what's called mundane astrology, which is sort of a disservice to the name because it's actually it's world event astrology. When we're talking about that, it's, it really is like you kind of need to move through time. Like, you need to know what years shit happened in. You need to know what was happening when things happened. There's the whole socio-political framework. And, the last time that Saturn was in Aquarius, as it is now, were the Rodney King riots in the early 1990s. And Saturn has literally not been in Aquarius since the Rodney King riots. And here we are today. So the patterns and the cycles are undeniable. So to me, it's like not a believe or not believe, because the religiosity of it, there is no religiosity. It's more of like every 29 years, there has to be some sort of a reaction to what's going on in this capacity, at least here in the United States within this framework.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Real quick, before we continue and get our personal readings, we are lucky enough to have a sponsor today. So please listen, because I need to move back to LA and I need money. So thanks, Purple.
Pause. Thank you so much, Purple, for sponsoring this episode of the podcast. So technology has improved pretty much everything from like phones, cars, everything else. But now, thanks to Purple, so has the mattress evolved, because since like the invention of sleep, I feel like mattresses have been more or less the same.
Yeah, same vibe.
So same vibe for sure. So the secret to Purple is the Purple Grid. It's a patented comfort technology that instantly adapts to your body's natural shape or sleeping style, because we all sleep differently. They sent us like a little example of the grid, and honestly, it's quite fun to play with. But
Like,
it definitely
different
shows
vibe.
yeah,
New
yeah.
vibe.
Yeah, new vibe. It's like shows you how firm it is in like some places like where you would need it, like your back, and then also how relaxed you can get for some places like your hips and shoulders. So that is very impressive. It's designed with over 2,800 open air channels and naturally temperature neutral gel, so you'll never sleep too hot or too cold. The purple mattress is soft where you want it, firm where you need it, comfortably cool all over. It is the mattress that does it all. Like, look at this.
Like literally. Like
literally.
you can count on resting easy night after night, year after year, because
Year after year.
yeah, because the ultra durable purple grid doesn't sink, doesn't lose shape. I've been pressing on it all week. Nothing. No change.
Yeah, nothing.
And Purple is so confident in what they do that every Purple mattress comes with free shipping and returns and a free 100-night trial. So don't trust us, trust your back, baby. Experience the next evolution of sleep. Go to purple.com/dating and use promo code dating. For a limited time, you'll get $150 off any Purple mattress order of $1,500 or more. That's purple.com/dating, promo code dating for $150 off any mattress order of $1,500 or more. Terms apply, love.
Thanks, Purple. So, Aliza, since I last had you on my channel, everything you said was so true. Like, you said that I was gonna travel a lot at the beginning of 2020, which I did. And then, well, actually, I don't know if this is actually going to be true because you said that I was going to have a lover.
Yeah, you're
by the
supposed
end
to.
of
I remember.
2020. And like, it's June and it's not happening unless it's my cat.
It's not your cat,
I'm at
Amy.
home.
It's still not your cat.
I mean, I guess I do have like 6 more months to figure some shit out, but we'll see.
Yeah, you're supposed to have.
You did say the end.
It's. I don't know. I mean, I'm gonna push back on you because hold on. Let me get to June 25th, 2020, time of this recording.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were supposed to get this wrapped up in May.
What, have a lover by May?
Yeah.
Dang.
I don't have any that I can think of.
Well,
Don't know.
I don't know. I mean, I would have to ask you.
I thought you said by the end of 2020.
Well,
that's when I was gonna.
Yeah, I mean, we're almost halfway done. I feel like I feel like my astrology is still right, but obviously I did not expect that everybody would be social distancing and that there would be a very different way of interacting with the world. But I'm rolling through with some serious questions because I also feel like maybe, like, is there a lover that is a secret lover that isn't
Aliza. Okay. I went on one date. But that's I don't like, I mean, there's no like love, you know what I mean?
I don't know.
Only for Jack.
Oh, please.
Well, now I'm nervous. That was going to be a secret, but thanks for Damn. She really got me, Jack.
Well, I feel like, I mean, it's interesting because one of the cool things about astrology is that it does account for when people aren't 100% honest with you, right? Like,
oh, God.
it's...
Oh, my
Whoa.
God.
Yeah, there is, like, one of the things that I learned in a particular type of astrology that I was studying called horary astrology is basically like, if certain things come up, it's like, well, that you don't have the right information. Like, ask again, like, or like cannot answer this question because like it is not valid. And that's something that like astrologers kind of also have to know when to apply, is like also just sort of challenging things too, because, you know, one, like, let's say everybody is really just trying to be as honest as possible. Like, maybe we are working on different definitions of relationship or lover, you know, like, so maybe we have to just kind of all redefine what we're talking about to make sure that we all are alluding to the same thing. But then two, like, if you're not being honest with yourself, like, that also is going to throw off the timing.
No, that's like actually iconic that you just caught me doing that right now.
I mean, I know you're a Scorpio. I know you're a triple Scorpio, but you can't get past a fucking astrologer. So it just is what it is.
Wow. Okay, what secrets does Jack have?
Well, I never have done Jack's chart before, so I don't know. I don't have a frame of reference. I see your chart now, and I can tell you that I love that you guys are both new moon babies in water signs. Like, that's really cool. From ancient history ago, when we first were planning on recording in Los Angeles in person together, I looked at your chart and I was like, oh, cool. You're also a water sign born on a new moon. So I've basically, what I'm trying to say is I've been waiting months to just say that. So I'm really happy to finally say it now.
Congrats.
So does that mean that we're like super compatible with each other?
It does.
Jack and
It does mean that you guys are super compatible. It means that you guys might be, in fact, so compatible that it's hard for you guys to have perspective on one another. That, like, you guys will be sort of, well, okay, this, one of the ways that I like to sort of describe two compatible, like overly compatible relationships is like, let's say if you guys are water signs, but let's say you were fire signs, right? One person might be like, let's light a match. And then the other one would be like, let's light the room on fire. And then the last one would be like, let's burn the whole thing down. And nobody is saying like, wait, what the fuck are you guys doing? Why are we doing this? For you guys, it's water sign driven, so it's emotional. So it's like Jack, you saying like, I have a bad feeling about this, and Amy being like, oh, well then I don't have, my intuition is telling me there's a problem also. And then Jack is like, okay, well, we can't continue because this doesn't feel right. And Amy's like, we're gonna cancel it. And nobody like checked the other one to basically be like, wait, but what about things that aren't just the emotional implications of it?
Damn.
Damn.
We do like sometimes rile each other up a little bit.
Yeah, because you guys like the same element is really complementary. Like it understands the vibe really well, but it doesn't offer any pushback, or it doesn't really like, you know, create a sort of different perspective. So it just, when you guys hype yourselves up, it's like you could get into this like such a hype cloud of steam and fume, and based on the emotions and the sensitivities, and then not be able to sort of like talk like either one of you off of that ledge, you know?
I feel like we definitely disagree sometimes, but it's usually because we agree about the same thing in the end, but we disagree about how to get there, or like how we deal with those emotions is different, I think, maybe.
Yeah.
Jack, it's almost your birthday. Or it was just your birthday. Or
No,
what day is it?
Almost. It's June. My birthday is July 5th.
Oh, well, what we have is Mercury retrograde is on your birthday right now. Mercury is at the same degree right now as it will be as your sun is on your birthday. So communication today is a very important thing.
You know what? It's funny that you say that, because I feel I've been like for the past couple weeks been like really like depressed and like not communicative and very shut off from the world. and even like my family. But like as of literally yesterday, I feel like I have started to figure out how to communicate my thoughts, or I like realize the weight of my thoughts more, and that like I actually have something to say, and that I don't know, like what I think like actually matters, because I feel like sometimes I feel like what I say like doesn't actually mean anything a year from now or whatever. So I feel like I have been feeling some like strong communication pulls recently.
It
Nice.
tracks.
So, okay, so a little backstory on Jack is he's been single for his whole life, and he like desperately wants a boyfriend. So
this is
who
also
is
like how you guys
compatible
rile
for
each
him?
other up with these narratives too.
Oh my god.
These are his words. You know that you say that all the time, Jack.
I know, but maybe what Aliza is saying is that I say it, and then you're like, yeah, you're right, and then you bring it to the next notch. So I'm like, oh my god, that's not even enough, and I bring it to the next notch, and I'm like, I will
and
never.
Amy,
No,
that's,
I was just-
you say. I mean, I know that you haven't been single your whole life, but you also say that similar things as well.
Yeah, about like nothing
Like
lasts
what?
forever.
Oh, but that's just true.
Well, that
in
you keep
fact.
telling me that I'm trying to get you to date your cat, and I'm just not.
No, but I want to know who's Jack gonna date and when.
Okay, I mean, I can
what
predict a
kind
fucking
of sign?
pandemic before I could predict you two riling each other up with this. So, first of all, part of this is for both of you guys to stop identifying as as a perpetual single, like energy, essence,
Okay.
entity. That is step one. That is like, transcends astrology because
I'm gonna write some shit down. I hope you don't mind.
That's just therapy.
yes. Well, this is sort of this is my blend of astrology. My secret sauce is like using, because, I work with people all day long, hundreds and hundreds, thousands, I've read thousands of people's charts. And through this empirical data, I have been able over my career to amass certain truths and see certain patterns. One of the patterns is like, you are what you say you are, If you are identifying as somebody who never can be in a relationship and is always single and is just, has bad luck in love, it's going to be really, really challenging for anything to break through that, because that is a message that you're sending out in all dimensions, And it's also like a way you're marking your identity. And identity is so important, especially when we talk about relationships, because identity is literally like you with a +1. It's like your identity as it relates to an external identity. So if the identity that you're leading with is like, I'm closed off and I'm always single and I can't find anything real, then there's going to be no way that that identity will be open to sort of another relationship,
Yeah. But see, okay, I think the difference, like the main difference between Jack and I is I'm like, I listen to you saying that and I'm like, awesome. I don't want to date anyone again. So I'm like, okay, keep doing what I'm doing. I am single forever, but Jack's a little different, I feel.
Well, I think you're both right. I mean, I think I definitely I wouldn't say I'm closed off like Amy. Speaking of riling each other up. I'm not closed off in that way. Like, I'm definitely very much I think more of an optimist when it comes to love, and like
100%.
I don't know. I maybe romanticize love a lot, but I do think that I hold myself back because I'm like, oh, well, it's never worked before, so it'll never work, right? But that's just like clearly not, like, things don't work until they do work. So I don't know.
Yes, and
Who is Jack most compatible with?
Well, Amy, as you all know, astrology is so much more complex than just that. But I mean, there's so many different types of people that one could be compatible with. Because astrology is not just based on one sign and one thing alone. You know, it's like this whole 360 complicated wheel. So there's different ways to look at it. There's different ways to understand compatibility. Sometimes I like to think of compatibility as more reductive in a way of like what isn't good for you.
Oh, okay.
What isn't good for you, Jack, is someone who's very secretive. Like shadowy relationships are really bad for you. Those are, in fact, probably the thing that you need to work really, really hard to make sure that this actually applies to both of you guys. This is one of the commonalities of your charts, is both of you guys have, are very intense and energetically powerful people. So you can form relationships that have nothing to do with what's actually happening in the physical world at all, and just have to do with like a passion or a spark or like a vibe. And even if that person is already in a relationship or they're like literally across the world, it's like
not this.
Sorry. I mean, Amy knows what she's getting herself into. We started doing this like a fucking year and a half ago, where I came on and she was like, "Oh my god, this is not what I thought it was gonna
be." Yeah, I'm like not triggered at all. I'm like,
you know, Jack is like having his head explode because it's too real. It is too real. I mean, it's the real shit is that like when you can't just have a relationship exist on energy alone. You know, a relationship needs to also be boring and physical and terrestrial, and like you need to just go to the grocery store together and like do taxes together and have the joys of doing physical things too, like having sex and like making food together and like those lovely things. But you need to have someone be physically present in the world in order for you to have a relationship that is fully encompassing. You can't just have a relationship based on vibes.
Fuck, because literally I ask this all the time to like Shan Booty, who's a sexologist, about like I am king of like if I don't feel a vibe on the first date, like it's not happening, right? But then that, like you're saying, closes me off to like even having the opportunity to have a physical person around to like explore that with. So
yeah, and I'm sure that Chan also in her different expertise arrives at the exact same answer that I do, which is like you can't. That's not enough to be able to determine a relationship.
So what do you think? Like, is time? Like the amount of time you spend with someone, like that deciding factor? Or because there has to be some level of energy, maybe not has to be, but I feel like likely is energy between people who are compatible, right?
I think a better meter than energy is honesty. I think that two people showing up as their most authentic selves, even though that's always a work in progress, and especially for you little bitty babies who have a ways to go before your Saturn return. Like, you guys are doing the right things right now. Like, you're not making bad lifelong commitments that then you're going to have, really solid midlife crises in, the next Saturn cycle, right? You're exploring, you're taking your time, you're figuring out what works and what doesn't work. That's exactly where you guys need to be. That's what you need to be doing in your 20s. But when it comes to, like, really being able to gauge whether somebody is worth investing in emotionally, energetically, sexually, all of those, it is actually about like how much can you show up as your truth, even if that means that your truth kind of like changes, because truth is flexible and malleable too. Like, as you learn new things, you're going to unlearn things. You might change your mind. Truth doesn't have to be stubbornness, but it's like truth of like, these are my expectations of what I want in a relationship. This is what I want in a career. This is how I, these are the qualities about me that I'm proud of. These are the qualities about me that I want to change, just like being really transparent of your experiences. And I think when you show up, because we can't control other people, but if one shows up if the relationship and in a date in some sort of a romantic context and brings their most authentic self, it's also really, it's like, that's the meter of like, you can feel if someone's bullshitting,
Yeah.
But if you're bullshitting, you can't expect the other person to be honest, because nobody is going to want to be honest to bullshit. You know what I mean? Like that's not going to work. So in order to really confirm that the relationship is worthy, it's like, you be your most honest self. If they're clearly not, then that's not worth your time. But if they're also trying with the same effort that you are, then that's worth exploring. Even if it's like not somebody that's physically your type, or someone that like you want to fuck in the bathroom. Like, it's like, just because it's not somebody who has like some sort of there's an infatuation, doesn't mean that an infatuation couldn't build through honesty also. Because like truly, there's really nothing more intimate and more sexy than two people like exploring their trauma together.
I want to know a little bit more about like what we can expect for the second half of this year. Not necessarily like in love lives, but just lives in general, because everything does seem so uncertain.
Well, I mean, the pandemic, the COVID-19 story is a full 2020 story. So this is not going away before 2021.
Is it a 2021 story? Oh, okay.
I'm not 100% sure yet. I really think that I don't know. I think that I need to have a little bit more information about these next couple of weeks ahead before I feel like I'm going to be able to really understand how this then begins to transform with new planetary arrangements of 2021. Remember, like, we use this Gregorian calendar that says like we're in the year 2020 because it was 2020 years ago when Jesus died, but like the planets don't use that same calendar. So they're not on the same cycle of time that we are. So like, for instance, like the zodiac cycle that starts in April. So, or at the end of March, like the new Aries season is at the end of March, beginning of April. So that's actually like the new year astrologically, if we were to like really be wanting to put it into date context. So those timelines that we have of like a 2020 year or 2021 year is sort of like our human construction of time, but astrology time, and I would guess that virus time doesn't operate on the same schedule that Gregorian time does. So I have to I think that what happens literally in the next 2 weeks from now, I think I'll know in 2 weeks what's going to happen in 2021. So come back in 2 weeks and I'll let you know.
But what's like the next, what's 2020 have for us? According to our charts.
For you two?
Yeah.
Okay.
Not even like necessarily together.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I mean, reading charts is so weird right now because things that we would normally read for, like different opportunities are just coming in such different ways. So both of you guys, your charts are so compatible. Like your charts are actually really timed, have similar timing to them. Which makes sense, which is why it's really good for you guys to like be partnered up in a business pursuit because of any kind, or a creative pursuit, because you're going to have things kind of come and you'll both have that same sort of experience together. But that also means that like the good and the bad are going to be sort of synchronized. So if your charts did not have the same timing, maybe some time that would be more introspective for you, Amy, Jack, you're going to be like wheeling and dealing, hustling, signing contracts left and right, and then can like sort of pull mopey Amy up. But that's not how, but both of your charts are going to be like killing it and then also like sad at the same time or very similar times.
Wow. So when is the next time we'll kill it?
The next time that I think both of you are going to be sort of like tapped in together, vibing, rolling is going to be like August, September.
Oh.
Amy, you're going to lead us. You're going to lead the troops. It's going to come via your way first, and you're going to feel like you're going to be starting to get that momentum rolling. And Jack, it's going to like, the good vibes are going to come a little bit later for you, but we're just talking a few weeks, like 3 weeks, 4 weeks, nothing major. But it's August, September, and then I would say October, you guys are going to be both like in the zone.
Oh, in the good zone.
Good. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Saw you were going
I
to say
was waiting
bad zone.
for the.
Of course you
come
both
down.
were.
Oh, whoa.
Waiting for the bad zone. You guys are both in hell in October.
Bad zone.
I have a question. So I guess it's less relating to us specifically, but more so to like astrology for all right now. But like, what are your thoughts on things like CoStar and services that people go to look for astrologists feedback versus like a in-person personal thing?
I mean, there's like I started an astrology app 7 years ago, and I feel like I have a huge ego and a huge chip on my shoulder about it. So I can't answer that question like a normal person. I have to answer that question like a Leo who is pissed off that the same venture capitalists that I've pitched to in 2015 ended up investing in CoStar a year later. So I have shade about it, and I can't deny it, right? Because it's just like I'm not.
It's the truth.
I'm right, and I'm. This is not like an objective point of view. Objectively, I think that astrology is an amazing thing. I love astrology. I want everybody to enjoy it, and it's very egalitarian. I think that it's something that people should be able, no matter how many resources you have, to either invest in like working with an astrologer 101 or like doing workshops or taking, whatever. Like I think that there should be all of it should be free, like access should be there. People should be able to become self-educated in it. I don't think that there should be barriers to entry. So on my like philosophical core level, I think that the more the merrier, the more options there are, the more people can be exposed, the more people will be more just self-aware and conscious and hopefully empathetic to one another and to each other and to themselves, because that's really also a huge part of the equation is kindness for yourself. I think that, if you're self-taught, if you're exploring like CoStar, one of like the consumer level apps or something, like there's going to be a point where you reach a ceiling and you're like, okay, well, is this all that astrology is? And then that's when you have to consider how you're going to go further. And that is going to, probably, hopefully take you off of those apps and into some more in-depth conversations. But like I have a community, for instance, called the Constellation Club, which is based on Discord, which is like Slack. And it's this chat room, and we have members from all around the world, and all of them are, interested in astrology to various degrees. And it's $5 a month to join. so at the like lowest entry level. And I wanted to create that space so that people can have conversations and continue to learn and educate one another and teach each other and have community without it being something that you need to like be dropping lots of money in order to participate in. So that's something really important to me that does not have to do with my ego.
That?
It's
how do they sign up?
So you can find it on my Instagram. If you go to my link in bio, it's going to, it's like this first or second link that I have on my link tree, and then on my website. Or if you love URLs, I built it through Patreon because Patreon is integrated with Discord. So you could go to patreon.com/Aliza Kelly, and then that's how you get in the Constellation Club, and it's for everybody.
Cool. Nice.
I want to be in it.
Please join. It's the first tier, the $5 a month tier is called Astro Curious, and it really is just for like dipping your toes, It's like it's an invitation of like if any of the stuff seems kind of cool, or like you want like the most amazing people in the world from everywhere in the world to look at your chart, like drop your chart in and people will share their interpretations. I'm in there, other people are in there, other astrologers, some like fucking amazing meme people are in there, some fucking celebrities are in there. It's like literally the place to be, and there's no exclusive Firefest vibe, It's just like egalitarian and lovely.
Okay, should we get into some advice?
Yeah.
Okay. I will read the first one. I'm technically an Aries, but was born on March 21st, so that makes me a cusp, which, Aliza, I know that you don't believe in cusps, but you'll tell us why. I don't even feel like an Aries at all. Another person said I identify more with my moon and rising than my sun. What does this mean?
So just like what we were talking about, how we use time in this Gregorian calendar way, sun sign horoscopes are kind of tricky because they rely on days, but really like when we're tracking the sun, it is more about the minute. There's going to be, each sign has exactly 30 degrees in it. And at one point, the sun or any planet, but when we're talking about sun sign astrology, the sun goes, which I know is not a planet in astronomy, but we're talking about astrology, goes from, it'll shift from Pisces to Aries, it'll like move from one space to another, but that doesn't mean that it's straddling both, it's like, it goes from one to the next. So it goes down to the minute, and we need minutes and we need times in order to know somebody's birth chart, especially if they're born on a day that the sun or any planet that's significant is moving from one to another. That's going to be different. If that happens at 7:58 a.m., 7:56 a.m., they're going to be a Pisces. And then 8 o'clock, they're going to be an Aries.
Do you identify more with like your moon and rising versus sun? Like what's the difference between the three of them? Because I don't really know.
The sun is like in your case, you're like the same in all of them. So for you, don't even worry about it. The sun is like the way that you think about, the way that you sort of take up space in a room. Think about like what the sun looks like in the sky. It's like here, it's like present, and it's sort of the way that you it's your ego, it's the way that you want to be seen, it's the way that you sort of exude your energy out. The rising is, I like to think of the sun as like the car that you're driving, and this is like, especially people in LA like really get this because people love, like there's so much car posturing in Los Angeles. So like the car that you're driving is your sun sign. So, if you're an Aries, like you're driving maybe like a race car. If you're a Pisces, you're driving like some like weird 70s like Volkswagen Bug with like, you know, weird stickers on it or something, right? It's like the way that you're sort of cruising. The rising sign is what sign was coming up on the eastern horizon at your exact moment of birth. And that's like the road that you're driving on. That's the vantage that you see. That's like the eyes that you're using to see reality through. So your rising sign shows you sort of like how you even perceive the world around you. It doesn't have to do with your car. It doesn't have to do with the vessel that you're using to get around. It has to do with like, do I think I'm driving through like easy peasy, like, you know, I know everybody, this is like my favorite town, it looks beautiful, or is it really like a bumpy fucking road and I'm driving next to a cliff and I feel nervous and I feel like it's just you know, it's dangerous, you know? That's going to show you how you feel about your life. And then your moon in this driving metaphor is like who's operating the car. It's how you're feeling about the whole experience. It's how you're feeling being in your car, and it's how you're feeling about the road that you're on. The moon is your emotions. So the moon shows you like the way that you're intuitively and internally sort of processing all of this other information that you're receiving.
Cool.
One of the other interesting advice questions that we had was, what are your thoughts on two of the same signs dating?
Cute. I've seen more Taurus couples than any other two signs. But cute. I love it.
Okay.
Yes.
You don't think that like two Cancers would just like cry and cry and cry?
They could, but it depends. Like, are they two Cancers? Like, how that energy is being received internally is not going to be the same for both people necessarily. You know, one person can be a Cancer who is really in touch with their emotions and really enjoys sort of like their watery sensitivity, and the other one has a ton of conflict around it and denies it and blocks it, or maybe feels it just in a different way. So just because they're the same sun sign doesn't mean that they're having the same experience with that car. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Okay, we actually got a lot of a lot of Geminis over here. So the
That
first one we
story
got
of
is,
Gemini, there's so many of them.
well, is there's not more Geminis than the rest
Well,
of us,
Geminis are
right?
twins, so there's always with every Gemini is two.
Okay, double. All right. So we got, I'm a Gemini, sad face. I think I'm pretty nice. But when I tell people that, they cringe. Help. Why do Geminis have such a bad reputation?
I know.
And then another one is, why are Geminis the actual worst? I'm a Gemini. Should I be worried? I'm a Gemini and truly don't know how to act. How can I balance work and fun? So,
oh my God.
Why do we hate Geminis?
I mean, it's so if there was another sign, like only Gemini could get as much like shade and hate and still like submit a question with like a sad face. Like Gemini are such good sports. Like we should be so appreciative and grateful for their great sense of fucking humor and the fact that they don't take things so personally, because otherwise I mean, it would just be devastating. Like for you as a Cancer, Jack, like imagine if you got as much shade as Gemini do. Like you'd be like, astrology is evil. Like I never want to talk about it.
Of course.
Gemini are the first air sign. They're super curious. They want to learn. They want to discover. They want to explore. They don't want to commit to anything. And that's because they want to just like, they want to see what's out there, you know? So Gemini, the twins, have like the reputation of being sort of two-faced, like, you know, dualistic, that they are too different, you know, that they like can't, I don't know, you can't trust them.
Both agree with
but
each
you
other.
can, it's just, you have to kind of think of like, imagine being so busy when you're so busy and you're like, oh, I just wish I had another me so I could get this other thing done. It's like, that's what Gemini feels all the time. forever. You know, they have something else that they need to be doing, and they're trying their best to do what they can, but like they're kind of in two places at once forevermore.
So it's
Okay.
not
But it's
bad.
not
You just have
personal.
to figure
Being
it
a
out.
Gemini.
Yeah, it just takes figuring out.
Aliza, thank you so much for coming on and reading us to filth.
Thank you guys. I'm sorry that every time we do astrology, it always has to be so real. But
I feel like it's always in Mercury retrograde as well. I feel like we've
Interesting.
had this. Yeah.
yes.
So, I don't know.
See, you're already becoming an astrologer. That's the type of shit we track.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Okay.
Side hustle. Aliza, do you want to just like plug? I know you have a book. I know you write and things. You want to just like shout out your thing?
Yes, I do all the things.
Constellation.
So if you're interested in any of the things, I would say that Instagram is probably like the main source of where you could find all of it. It's all can be traced back, all roads lead back to Mark Zuckerberg. So you can find me at Aliza Kelly, Aliza Kelly, Aliza like Ibiza. Or if you're more formal, you can go on alizakelly.com and link out there.
Amazing.
Okay. Thank you so much again. Thanks for listening. I'm Amy Oddman.
I'm Jack Dodge, and this is Dating Straight.
See you next Tuesday.
We could be broken-hearted lovers. You can help